Alright, well, this is an album that people care about. It's a good album. So I better not mess it up when I talk about it. Did you know that Ridley Scott and David Bowie did an ice cream commercial together? It's kind of neat. I completely forgot to talk about this in the last episode. Along with his first album, he shot a 30-minute short film called Love You Till Tuesday. Well, how do I put this? Does Austin Powers know you raided his wardrobe? I think for most of this he was going for like a teen heartthrob vibe. Except it just doesn't work. Like first of all, he's not a teenager. He looks 12, but he's not. Of all of his personalities and looks that he played through the years, this is the one that is the least successful because he's a nerd. Basically, all the songs that were on the album that I enjoy here. Even more so here because they're paired with some of the songs that I didn't care for at all, didn't even mention, because I felt like me saying I didn't like things was starting to get redundant. Which I understand is not a great place to start this retrospective about my favorite artist. There is a composition on here called When I'm Five. If not for the Laughing Gnome, this would be his worst song, probably. David Bowie, who here is, I think, 20 years old, playing 4, is It's Annoying. So, David Bowie was a trained mime. Didn't know if you knew that, but here he is, looking like the porn star version of Alex from A Clockwork Orange. Yeah, you can see Bowie's undies through those tights. You can see his butt. Imagine seeing all that and this segment still being terrible. The most notable thing about this short film is the Space Oddity segment. The whole thing is filled with this shoddy, cheap production value, and the Space Oddity segment is no different. Like, for ground control, he wears a hat and shirt that says GC. His spaceman suit says Major Tom, and he's wearing, like, a ski mask. It's cheap, but they really stretch the budget here where they can, and they use some very interesting camera tricks to get across this nice sci-fi vibe. There are all these great references visually to 2001: A Space Odyssey and Barbarella. It's a nice video. It's the best part of this whole short film, and even this not great sounding, messy, rough draft version of the song is still better than most of the music on his previous album. So thankfully, that brings us to the main subject of today's video, David Bowie's second self-titled album, released in America as Man of Words, Man of Music, and later reissued for the song it would be most associated with, Space Oddity. The first time you hear this song, you know that you're listening to something defining. The guitar strumming in the back, getting closer and closer. And then the lyrics come in. The understated ground control to Major Tom. I really love this song. And there's just nothing else like it. Not even in his own catalog, there's nothing else like it. For those of you who somehow don't know what this song is about, it's the story of an astronaut who is sent out on a mission, and either by his own choice or by accident, he is lost to Earth never to return. It's haunting and poetic and magical. The music itself helps describe the story of the song. It's like the score to a film, the way it plays out, with the slow build into the countdown, and then that's when the song really kicks in and lifts you just as it did Major Tom to the heavens. And there's just something so amazing about the way that works. And then by the end of the song, there's just this cacophony of noise fading in and out, which goes along with the theme of communication that goes through the whole song, starting from the first lyric, ground control to Major Tom, to the lyric describing that they've lost communication with him. They've lost contact. I also just think it's incredibly geeky how there's the lyric, take your protein pills and put your helmet on, in the canon of pop music. Just the little things. It's kind of astonishing that this song that started Bowie's career is almost the song that killed his career. See, it came out around the same time as the Apollo 11 missions, so people thought it was sort of a novelty. The next song is Unwashed and Somewhat Slightly Dazed. This song is about being looked down on as part of an inferior lower class by his upper class rich girlfriend. You also get the sense that she can't deny her attraction to him. That kind of grosses her out, but she just can't help herself. If you like the dynamic between Han Solo and Leia, or Bender and Claire, then this song is your aesthetic. I love the dirtiness of this song and the manic lyrics. It's really fun. We have the simple jam track, Don't Sit Down. Can't say much about it. It's just a simple jam track. It's 45 seconds. Next up is the beautifully composed and heartbreaking Letter to Hermione. It's a breakup song that just covers all of the bases you'd expect in a breakup song, which means it's not really a standout lyrically, but it definitely feels like it is coming from an honest place in Bowie. A lot of the songs on this album are about breakups, and the next one is another example of that, with Signet Committee. But this isn't a breakup with a girlfriend. This is a breakup with the hippie community. This is a song about feeling betrayed by a movement, a counterculture that he found just as bigoted and racist and opportunistic and greedy as the culture he was trying to counter. He just vents all of his frustrations and goes on these long tangents, leaving everything out there. This is the end of a relationship, and it goes on for 9.5 minutes. And it's my favorite song on the album besides Space Oddity. We come down from that with a nice little bluesy song, Janine, which is about a girl being into you, but not being comfortable with that because you're afraid she'll reveal parts of yourself that you're not comfortable with. It's a good song, not a standout, but I do like this one. The next song is An Occasional Dream, which is another song about the breakup between him and Hermione Farthingale. I would say this one is more interesting because it's not just about a breakup. It's about going through a breakup and remembering all of the good times that you had in the relationship. That being said, the music is a bit too cheery and playful for its subject matter. So once again, I'm going to quote Genius here for the next song, Wild Eyed Boy from Free Cloud. His description of the song is, "It was about the disassociated, the ones who feel as though they're left outside, which is how I felt about me. I always felt I was on the edge of events, the fringe of things, and left out. A lot of my characters in those early years seemed to revolve around that feeling. It must have come from my own interior puzzlement at where I was." And that's definitely a feeling I can relate to. The song cloaks that message in imagery of what I can only describe as an older age. Like, I don't think it's supposed to be modern day. It describes of villagers and a hangman. Musically, it's a lot different from everything else in the album. It's more Baroque pop, has more of that folkish sound that you would expect from his first album, except good. The next song on the album is God Knows I'm Good. This is a story song about a woman who's desperate in a bad financial situation and she attempts to steal a can of stew. It's different. I don't want to say it's not bad. It's just kind of okay. So now we come to the album closer, Memory of a Free Festival. The first half of the song is just all this build-up description of the imagery and lots of drugs that were present there. And then the second half is just the repeated refrain of the sun machine is going down, we're gonna have a party. And it just keeps going and building and adding more voices. And yeah, it's one hell of an album closer. There's just all the dreary emotions that made up the bulk of this album are washed away here, just filled with positivity. So now we're on to the bonus tracks from the 1990 reissue. The first one up is Conversation Piece. It's not super impressive lyrically, but it does differ at least from the breakup songs, and I think I would have preferred this to God Knows I'm Good. It's a song about feeling like you're going to be forgotten and the minutia of people that you interact with on the day to day. So the last song we're talking about tonight is, and Italians, I'm sorry if I butcher this, Ragazzo Solo, Ragazza Solo. So this is kind of known as the Italian version of Space Oddity because it uses the same music, but while the lyrics are in Italian, it's not a translation of Space Oddity. They're brand new lyrics, and they're about, guess what? Another breakup. Now, this being a breakup set to the tune of Space Oddity makes it perhaps the most haunting breakup song I've ever heard, so at least that's different. So, final thoughts on this album. The thing that strikes me about this is that while this album has become so associated with its opening track, none of the rest of the album is like it. There are no other sci-fi themed songs here. I think that's a little bit of a bummer, but I also think that maybe he saw all the character songs from his previous album leading to that album's failure and didn't want a repeat of that, which is why there are only two here. Now, the rest of the album being about heartbreak and the hippie movement does make for a very interesting album. Definitely something you don't really hear in other musicians around this time. Now, musically, everything's a lot more cohesive this time around. The psychedelic soul and pop and rock influences work together with wonderful production to make it all sound like it's supposed to be an album and not something that was thrown together from different folksy influences. I don't know what else to say other than Space Oddity is an amazing album, and you should definitely listen to it. Next week, I'll be talking about The Man Who Sold the World. Cat machine is going down, and we're gonna have a kitty. Meow, meow, meow.